You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. Yes, I was preoccupied. It's September the 30th, 2024, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. I'm live from the Legacy420.com news desk here at paceradio.net. Not only is today September the 30th, but it's also Truth and Reconciliation Day here in Canada, due to the residential schools situation. And don't forget, if you've got one, wear your orange t-shirt or shirt today, whether it's a hoodie, shirt, whatever, as long as it's orange, as every child matters. And you can see I got my shirt on today as well. So just so you know, Glenn is off today, and Cindy is just getting back from Mexico. So neither one of them are available. So I'm just going to go it alone. Which happens occasionally. But today I've got news from Manitoba. I've also got the news from USA. I got a story that has me shaking my head. Just wow, and plus more. So we'll get into that stuff, and right away, as the first story comes to us from StratCan. Headline there says Manitobans may finally be able to grow cannabis at home in 2025. That's right, people. Even though cannabis has been legal here since 2018, there are people within certain provinces, 2 provinces, where they cannot grow cannabis. And I know that there was a change of government in Manitoba, and let's hopefully they get around to getting this corrected, as they said they would. In an email to the Winnipeg Free Press on September 25th, Manitoba Justice Minister Matt Waby said the provincial government is in the process of drafting the regulations for a bill passed in June. He says that the Liquor, Gaming, and Cannabis Authority is drafting regulations to ensure the framework for growing cannabis at home prioritizes public safety with a focus on protecting youth and ensuring cannabis plants are not accessible to young people. Now, the provincial government is expecting to post the proposed regulations by the end of 2024 to allow time to get for public feedback. This is a change in the plans announced in June, when a source with the Manitoba government told StratCan that such rules would be expected to be in place by November of 2024, so like in a month's time. So obviously that's not going to happen. When the bill was being debated in the Manitoba Parliament earlier this year, the Progressive Conservative opposition brought up concerns that they were passing a bill that had not yet been written. Only once the regulations are finalized will people in Manitoba be able to grow up to 4 plants at home. Specifics such as where plants can be grown on a person's property are still unknown. For example, I know in like BC, your plants can't be seen. So if you've got, a balcony that's see-through, you can't grow your plants on that balcony. And I believe there's apartments where your condominiums and stuff where you can't even grow your plants out there. So, and there was one story about a place that had 3 plants growing in their yard, and they just happened to hold a garden party for the public to come in and look at all their flowers and their yard gardens and stuff. And 3 cannabis plants were visible for those people, and because of that, they were charged for it. So, okay, now the story goes on to say MLA Brandon West, Wayne Belkan, debated earlier this week. It says that who will monitor these grows and who will monitor the sale of seeds to produce these cannabis products? Well, the seeds you buy legally from the store. And as far as monitoring your grows, do you go around and check how much alcohol people are producing in their home when it comes to beer? I don't think so. The penalty in Manitoba for growing cannabis home is currently a $2,542 fine, as well up to a year in prison and forfeiture of personal property. Manitoba and Quebec are the only two provinces to ban growing at home. And in April this year, the Supreme Court of Canada upheld Quebec's ban. Remember that, people. Supreme Court of Canada upheld the Quebec's ban. So that tells me that the federal government could ban home growing, because if the Supreme Court isn't going to stop Quebec, why would they stop the rest of the country? They say the ruling that the province has the authority to enforce such a ban, even in the face of federal rules allowing for 4 plants per household. So 4 plants per household rules could be changed fairly. You just never know, right? If they can do it in Quebec, they can do it at the federal government as well. So nobody wants to see that happen. All right, on to the next story. This one here heads to the U.S., and it comes to me from Green State. The headline on it says, "Sweeping CDC report lays framework for federal cannabis policy." There we go. From industry stakeholders to advocates, plenty of opinions are swirling on how to move forward with cannabis reform. According to a sweeping new report, federal health officials need to take more active role in cannabis policy moving forward. Yeah, exactly. Cannabis policy impacts public health and health equity was sponsored by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the National Institutes of Health. The 320-page analysis proposes a health-forward approach to cannabis regulations, emphasizing harm reduction and restorative justice. It takes agencies like the CDC with helping shape national policy. Now, according to Dr. Stephen Tushisk of University of Southern California, he says that we'd like the federal government to step up to provide some leadership in this area. Now, according to him, public health took a back seat as states passed cannabis laws. The report raises concerns over cannabis potency as well as perceived health risks, such as the impact of consumption on unborn babies and adolescents. We're not legalizing for the adolescents. I know that. Financial interests played a substantial role in influencing those policies, he says. And among the report's recommendations for the CDC are develop and evaluate health campaigns about cannabis, specifically for parents, young people, pregnant women, and people 65 and older. Monitor cannabis cultivation, sales, use, and health impacts. I don't know how they're going to monitor cannabis cultivation unless you have to register to be able to grow your cannabis, and that would be one hell of an endeavor to look after, I would imagine. Now, they say to create best practices for state regulation, including ways to limit youth access. And they say for Congress, close a loophole that allows intoxicating products derived from hemp to be widely sold, even in states where other cannabis products are illegal. Remove restrictions on the Office of National Drug Control Policy that prevent it from studying the effects of cannabis legalization. Well, why would they have? Yeah, that's odd. Now, for the states, they say required training and certification for cannabis retail staff. We have that right here in Ontario. Actually, I got my can sell myself. Automatically expunge or seal records for low-level cannabis-related offenses in states that have decriminalized cannabis. Adopt and enforce quality standards set by the U.S. Pharmacopoeia, an independent group that sets standards for medicine and dietary supplements. Now, I just don't know if Pharmacopoeia covers plants. Now, a CDC spokesman said Thursday the agency would study the recommendations and that more money would be needed to implement them. It remains to be seen which aspects of the report the government will accept. But if the DEA moves ahead with moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to 3, the plant will likely be under the FDA's purview. Advocates hope government agencies can work together to craft sensible policy as opposed to the piecemeal approach currently seen across the country. Yeah, some people they think they look at it as they support the states has the right to look after how they want to have the cannabis. I like our system here where we have a federal end that has cannabis legal, whereas a state by state approach isn't that. So we have our federal government where it's still legal, but we still have our province and municipalities, which could be ours in the U.S., the states as well as the municipalities, to add to all of that. So, all righty, on to my next story. This one here, it's a there we go. It's a psychedelic story, and it comes to me. Ads popping up here. A Medical Express, and the headline on that says psychedelics excite cells in hippocampus to reduce anxiety, according to what the study finds. Now, see, the story says the classic psychedelic, similar to LSD, psilocybin, and mescaline, was found to activate a cell type in the brain that silences other neighboring neurons, a result that provides insight into how such drugs reduce anxiety, according to a new study. The findings show that the psychedelic DOI, the ventral hippocampus, and so-called fast spiking inner neurons there. Now, unfortunately, I can't pronounce the words that are involved in the DOI. Now, by biomedical engineering at Cornell University, says it hasn't been known what brain areas and cell types are involved with psychedelics to suppress anxiety. Because the idea is that if we know the neurobiological involved, we can design some better drugs that would target these pathways. The work provides an understanding of the cellular trigger for the psychedelic-inducing relief and anxiety, says Vidita Vadai, senior professor of biological sciences at the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Mumbai, and the paper's corresponding author. The pathway in the ventral hippocampus, a brain structure involved in social memory, emotion, and effect, does not appear to cause the hallucinations that are a hallmark of DOA, suggesting that some of the therapeutic effects of psychedelics, including reducing PTSD, depression, and anxiety, may be isolated within discrete brain circuits. So he's looking at pharmaceutical drugs. He says that opens up the possibility to design psychedelic-inspired drugs that target anxiety without evoking potential hallucinations, she added. So there you go, right there. In this anxiety, the maze had two sections: an enclosed area with walls where the rodent may feel safe, and a completely exposed section that is evaluated from the ground. Now, Kwan says that as one might expect, the animal tends to spend a lot of time in the closed wing. This is a kind of a standard assay to determine how anxious the animal will be and how much it will explore. Researchers can assess anxiety levels based on the time spent in each area. So in one experiment, the team injected DOI generally into the bloodstream before running the rodents into the maze. They then systematically induced DOI in 4 different brain areas, one at a time, and tested for changes in anxiety. Kwan says, quite surprisingly, only one region, the ventral hippocampus, when we infused it with the DOA, was able to retain the psychedelic effects of reducing anxiety. Electrical readings of the brain was measured by the co-author Antonio Fernandez Ruz, assistant professor of neurobiology and behavior, and Nancy and Peter Mening. They are family investigator in the life science in the College of Arts and Sciences. These recordings identified that the first spiking inner neurons, which made up of only 10 to 15% of the cells in the ventral hippocampus, showed increased firing under the influence of the DOA. The inner neurons are known for silencing other neurons, creating checks so different types of nerve cells aren't all excited at once. The study builds on earlier research that identified abnormal hyperactivity in the ventral hippocampus when an animal is anxious, particularly neurons that communicate with amygdala, the major processing center for emotions. We learn a lot from mice, don't we? There's a hint that in the anxiety state, these cells are active, and maybe the drug works by then silencing some of these. And in future work, the researchers hope to investigate how the amygdala may be involved. Now, the study took advantage of a cross-campus collaboration between Kwan and Fernandez Ruz to measure electrical brain signals in an international collaboration with these teams, which led to many of the behavior aspects of the study. So there you go. Just the stuff that they're finding out is, it's interesting that they can determine these things just by using mice, but they've been very helpful, obviously, in with medicines over the years. There's no doubt about that. So, all right, on to my next story before I go to break. And this headline comes from the London Free Press. Headline says 5 charged in raids on Indigenous pot shops in London, nearby First Nation. Wow. 5 people face charges following a series of police raids on unsanctioned pot shops in London and the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation. Is it going on the reserves? The Ontario Provincial Police-led cannabis enforcement team launched an investigation in June into the illegal sale of cannabis at a dispensary on Chippewas territory and at 2 London stores operating under the name Spirit River that weren't licensed by the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. That's the province's regulator, according to the OPP. Police raided the London locations, one in a trailer at 72 Welling Street, the other at a storefront in 685 Richmond Street, and the Chippewa store on August the 20th, seizing $350,000 worth of cannabis products, $9,000 in contraband tobacco, $2,500 in magic mushrooms, $11,000 in cash, and an extraction press. Established in 2018, after Canada became the second country in talking about legalization, they said the OPP values a close working relationship with First Nation police services to enforce the laws pertaining to illegal cannabis and to address any concerns relating to investigations or enforcement activities. That's the London Police Detective Sergeant Josh Silcox. Now, it says that partnerships and collaboration between police services and agencies are imperative to ensure public safety and successful outcomes with dealing with these type of investigations. So, looks to me that the First Nations police services were involved in this. 2 London men, 44 and 41, and a London woman, 27, and a Chippewas man, 52, and an Odina man, 41, face drug-related charges. All going to appear in London court in October. There's some of the products that they had to say. The accused include Maurice French, who identified himself as the owner of the Spirit River location on Wellington Street when it opened in December of 2022. French argued at the time that he was exercising his treaty rights to open a medicinal cannabis trading post on traditional Chippewa Nation land, according to a letter sent to City Hall and police officials. I remember covering that, or brought that up in one of our news articles because of what he did. He took this letter to the police officials and everything. In an interview after the crackdown, French said he was no longer connected to the London Spirit River locations, but he operated a store in Chippewas that was raided. Now, French says that I wanted no part of what was going because we got away from what our original goal was, our plan for treaty rights and exercising our treaty right, and we got away from that with money and greed. Yeah, that's what French said, and in the involvement with the London Spirit River stores. French said he opened the Chippewas store along with the gas station and variety store back in May, and his two employees have now been charged. Nobody's allowed to enter the stores that were raided unless they get permission from the Superior Court of Justice, the police said, noting anyone who violates the order will be charged with break and enter, and signs posted on the now shuttered London stores by police issued the same warning. Both of the London locations remain closed more than a month after the crackdown, and a sign outside the Wellington Spirit River location says the business will reopen soon. It's unclear what prompted the police crackdown and why other Indigenous run shops operating in London in defiance of the law aren't targeted. At least two other unsanctioned dispensaries. One on Dundas Street and the other on Richmond Street, still open. I wonder if you go back to the what all they found at the place. They talked about the mushrooms. There it is. The conjure. Well, I don't know where the tobacco came from. Now I got this Vistaprint ad flying in front of me. They mentioned here was magic mushrooms, $2,500 worth of magic mushrooms. I wonder if that was the problem that got the local police involved from the reserve, and they brought in the OPP. Who knows? All right, folks, time for me to take my break. Time for me to medicate. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We're live here at paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking for non-stop, continuous cannabis and psychedelic programming? If you are, then turn your browsers to 420radio.ca or paceradio.net, where you will find the 420 Pace re-rolled Saturday. Everything gets started at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, I'm back from my medication session. I'm still coughing, actually. And you're live here at Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. All right, off we go to good old USA and Pennsylvania, because down there, according to Marijuana Moment, the Pennsylvania police arrest an average of 32 people for cannabis possession every day. New data shows as lawmakers weigh legalization. 32 people a day. Wow. The Pennsylvania lawmakers under pressure to act on cannabis legalization when they reconvene next week. New data is underscoring the urgency, revealing that more than 12,000 people were arrested for cannabis possession in the Keystone State last year. Put differently, that means Pennsylvania police made an average of 32 cannabis possession arrests every day. The data from the National Institute-based reporting system and the Uniform Crime Reporting System shows. Now, in 2023, 10,463 adults and 1,578 juveniles were arrested for possession of up to 30 grams of cannabis. Inconsistent with national enforcement trends, those arrests have disproportionately affected Black residents. While about 75% of Pennsylvania's population is white, Black people account for 40% of the cannabis arrests. Now, according to Chris Goldstein, a Normal regional organizer, he says that I think that the ongoing arrests in Pennsylvania should motivate lawmakers as it did in other states. Well, more than 80 cities in the state have moved forward with locally decriminalizing or reducing penalties for simple possession. The fact there are still upwards of 12,000 arrests statewide makes Pennsylvania stand out nationally as having some of the most arrests of any state in America at this point. Goldstein, who's compiled the new enforcement data, says. Wow, that's a lot of people. But even as Pennsylvania has become an island of prohibition, surrounded by states that have enacted adult use legalization, such as Ohio, Delaware, and Maryland, New Jersey, and New York, Goldstein says he doesn't feel the latest push for reform in the legislature will deliver results this session, while he attributes to the ongoing absenteeism of certain GOP leaderships. He says that there are plenty of Democrats who've offered well-thought bills over the years, and they just have never gotten anywhere. And there are even some well-thought bills from Republicans over the years that haven't gone anywhere. That's because people in leadership positions have simply blocked those bills from moving forward. Sounds like a Mitch anti-cannabis guy. Earlier this month, Reps Aaron Kiefer and Emily Kincaid formally introduced a bipartisan cannabis legalization bill alongside 15 other co-sponsors. In July, the governor of Pennsylvania said that the administration and lawmakers would come back and continue to fight for cannabis legalization and other policy priorities that were omitted from the budget legislation he signed into law last month. when the Pennsylvania legislature approved the budget bill that Governor Josh Shapiro enacted, lawmakers also accidentally left medical cannabis dispensaries out of a section providing tax relief. Accidentally. And it hasn't been clear whether the omission could be fixed without future legislative action. What happens after the legislature reconvenes for the remainder of the session next week is uncertain, but a poll released this week found that strong majorities of Pennsylvania voters in 5 key toss-up districts are in favor of legalizing cannabis in the state, and they want to see lawmakers enact the reform imminently, like now. So there you go. Come on, Pennsylvania, get your acting gear. What are you doing investing so many people? That's why I got my saying at the end of the broadcast. All right, on to the next story. And this one here, it comes to me from the Business of Cannabis, and the headline on it reads, "Proposal could see CBD banned for use in cosmetics across Europe." Like, why? Let's find out why. CBD as a cosmetic could soon be banned in the European Union amid efforts from France to classify it as a reprotoxic substance. On September the 11th, France issued a proposal to the European Chemicals Agency to classify CBD as a carcinogenic, mutagenic, and reprotoxic substance based on what it says is its potential reproductive toxicity. The proposal, which was first announced in June last year, has seen the ECHA issue a call for data on the safety of pure CBD and extracts that may contain contaminants like THC to establish the safety of the substance when used as a cosmetic ingredient. While some research, including a 2019 FDA literature review, suggests CBD could potentially cause male reproductive toxicity in animals. What? The CEO and founder of Paris-based cannabis consultancy Agar Associates, Benjamin Alexandria Genoa, says this proposal may be driven more by politics and science. I'd say so. What? Yeah. What happened? The ECHA published France's intention to introduce a harmonized classification labeling CLH for CBD, a process which is designed to ensure the consistent labeling and effectively manage any potential risk. The French proposal focuses on CBD's potential reproductive toxicity, referring the adverse effects of a substance on any aspects of the reproductive cycle, including the impairment of reproductive function and the induction of adverse effects in the embryo. It forms part of the wider effects of the scientific community for safety, consumer safety, to establish harmonized standards across the bloc and regulate the use of novel ingredients in cosmetic products. Since 2021, CBD has been included in the cosmetic ingredient database, the official database of cosmetic ingredients in the EU, under 2 separate entries covering both synthetically produced CBD and CBD produced from extraction. Under the listing, it notes that CBD can potentially be used for its antitoxins and anti-sebum and skin protection properties. While CBD is permitted to use in cosmetic products, no full regulations have yet been determined, placing the substance in a gray area, which will be familiar for any CBD business operating in Europe. The ultimate decision on the future of CBD in Europe will be made by the CSSC, which could prohibit its use in cosmetics altogether if submitted evidence confirms its toxicity. But a positive opinion from the regulatory body could also solidify its future usage. Its investigation will involve several steps, including dossier submission, consultation, and development of a final opinion from the Committee for Risk Assessment. Over the past few weeks, France has had a turbulent relationship with CBD, and this is not the first time it has attempted to limit its uses or ban it entirely. Most notably in 2020's Canna-Vape case, which saw the European Court of Justice rule that French authorities had acted unlawfully in prosecuting two businessmen who imported CBD flowers from the Czech Republic in 2014, as CBD is not a narcotic. This attempt to crack down on CBD backfired and set a legal precedent that has come to rescue of many CBD companies prosecuted in Europe over the last few years. Now, according to Mr. Ginray, this case could follow a similar track. It's crazy. Toxicity in CBD. I remember all those rumors that makes male impotency and, oh, jeez. This is continuation of reefer madness. The way French authorities have handled cannabis and hemp in recent years has often put politics before science, with science sometimes being used to justify specific policies they wanted to push forward. The question is, why is France doing this? I think it needs to be placed in the context of France's involvement over the past decades, especially since Macron's presidency, which has largely been a force of conservatism at these issues. Now, according to there, it says he explained that he had since seen this conservative stance play out firsthand during a drug policy meeting organized by the Czech presidency of Council of the European Union 2 years ago. Now, goes on to say that this was the first time cannabis was at the center of such discussions. While I observed what was that France was not a major help, and in fact acted more as a force to preserve the status quo in this form. We've seen this before in efforts to restrict the use of cannabis flower, and now with France pushing to limit the legality of CBD in the European Union. Wow. Why would they be this toxicity? Come on. Wow. See, it goes on down here. It says it's a collective process that will depend on how much influence France has. It seems that they haven't had a lot of success in the past in regards to closing up the markets and the different uses of CBD. And taking into account the apparent loss of influence of France in the new configuration after the European elections, including the retraction of France candidates for the president of the Commission, there is a definite sense that France is losing influence within the European Union in some capacity, and therefore that does not bode well for it. Well, I didn't expect that to go like that, to have them go on about the reproductive issues and all that connected to CBD. Wow. Like I said, reefer madness. Okay, now this next story. This is the one that I said at the beginning was just I mean, what WTF when I read the headline. And this is my last story of the day. And this one comes to me from Psych Post. And yes, this is what the headline says. Man amputates penis with an axe after consuming psilocybin mushrooms. What? Yeah, what? In an unprecedented case report, doctors in Austria have documented the first known instance of psilocybin-induced penile amputation. After consuming a large quantity of magic mushrooms, a 37-year-old man suffering from depression and alcohol abuse severed his penis with an axe. Fortunately, doctors were able to reattach part of the amputated organ. Now, this was in a manual, in a journal, the Mega Journal of Surgery, and it goes on about psilocybin, the reports and how it's helping people with different conditions. But in this case, the report published by doctors at the hospital Feldkirch in Austria outlines the shocking details of this 37-year-old man who consumed a large dose of psilocybin and during a severe psychotic episode amputated his penis using an axe. The man, who had a history of depression and alcohol abuse, ingested 4 or 5 dried psilocybin mushrooms, was staying alone in a secluded vacation home. Not long after consuming the mushrooms, the man began to experience a terrifying hallucination or delusion, which led him to take an axe and sever his penis into multiple pieces. Yes, multiple pieces. The details of the event are unclear to the patient, as he did not. The man reportedly bleeding. No. He then left the house, bleeding profusely in search of help. A passerby found him in a confused state and called for emergency services. The man was transported to a nearby village. Significant amount of blood. He was immediately taken into surgery where doctors worked to stabilize him and control the bleeding. His penis was contaminated with soil and snow, and parts of the organ were severely damaged. Surgeons were able to save. The replantation was successful, despite the significant challenges posed by the extent of the injury and contamination. Despite initial difficulties, the patient's condition improved after the surgery's delusions. He was placed under psychiatric care, and his treatment included antipsychotic medications to help control the hallucinations. His mental state gradually stabilized, and after a week, he was moved back to the urology department to continue his recovery. In the tissue developed on the glands of his penis, likely due to the loss of blood flow during the period when he was bleeding, but it's healed over time. Remarkably, the patient was able to regain some erectile function within 3 months of the surgery, though the overall length of his penis was significantly reduced due to the damage. At his last follow-up visit, he was able to urinate normally while seated, though a minor complication called hippocampus developed where the urinary opening is located further down the shaft than normal. While this case is the first documented instance of psilocybin-induced self-amputation, it brings attention to a broader phenomenon of self-mutilation during psychotic episodes, particularly among individuals with underlying mental health conditions known as Klingsard syndrome. These rare but extreme events often involve self-inflicted injury to the genitals and can be associated with a range of psychotic conditions with schizophrenia to several real-world examples of how certain drugs, treatments, or conditions can manifest in unique circumstances. However, because case reports usually focus on a single patient, they do not provide the kind of broad, statistically significant data that is needed to establish definitive conclusions about a drug or a condition. In other words, while this case demonstrates that psilocybin can, in rare cases, lead to severe psychotic episodes and self-harm, it does not mean that this outcome is common or is likely to happen to most people who use psilocybin. In fact, the majority of research on psilocybin has shown that it is relatively safe when used in controlled environments, professional supervision. Despite these limitations, case reports play a critical role in advancing medical knowledge. They help doctors to identify rare side effects, potential effects, and best practices for managing complex cases. In the case of psilocybin, reports like this one could influence future guidelines for its therapeutic use and highlight the need for careful screening of patients before administering treatments. So there you go. It happened, but as they said, this is the first time, and this is not to be looked at as something that is going to happen just because somebody consumes some magic mushrooms. So, all right, folks, that's it for today. Other than that, I'm gonna say goodbye to my friends at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, legacy420.com, Limestone City Hydroponics.ca, and At-Eze.ca. And in closing, thanks for watching. I muttered up a few times, but that happens. Other than that, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. Come on, Pennsylvania, get your act in gear. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20 is so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.